We are live from Sales HQ. I'm Vince Beese, your host and the founder here at Sales HQ. And before we get to our esteemed guest, Cameron Long, for those of you that are looking for a flex space, a place to provide you more energy outside of your remote environment, Sales HQ is a perfect environment for that. Most members will tell you they didn't join because of buying a desk or going into an office. They did it because they want to be around others that do what they do, which is this thing we do called sales. So if you're in the area of the Raleigh-Durham area, please check us out at saleshq.co. And even if you're not, we have lots of events that are also virtual. You'll see we have an event tab on the website as well. So that's my little plug for Sales HQ, and please check us out when you get some time. So Cameron, I want you to share with us a little bit about what you're currently up to, and then we're going to dig into how you got started in sales and sales leadership and kind of go from there.
Sure. So right now, I am working at a startup that I co-founded with two other gentlemen. We have a couple more staff members, some contract folks doing engineering, but the name of the company is called Virnika, and we are creating restaurant tech using very intentional AI tools to create a better customer experience when you're placing orders. And the whole idea is to help restaurateurs take more orders, get better margins, that sort of thing, but also to create a better experience for the people that are placing their orders. You don't have to wait on hold. You don't have to hunt and peck if you would rather call. It's meeting the customer with I said, intentional tools so that there's no friction when they want to buy.
Give me an example of that. A user experience. I'm the customer, what do I get?
Yeah. You know how normally everyone places an order, they go to e-commerce site like Toast or something for the restaurant, they hunt and peck. Well, if you're driving, for instance, the modality of hunting and pecking,
hard to touch. Yeah.
It's either dangerous or impossible, right? So what do? You either pull over and do it, or you call. And if they're busy, you might be on hold. They might not answer the phone ever. Or you might just have to drive to the restaurant, order there, right? So the whole idea of Virnika is to meet people with whatever modality is the most convenient for them in that moment. So if it's hunting and pecking with your fingers, if it's using voice commands, whatever, but you're taking the human out of the loop there because it's a friction point and a bottleneck in restaurants. Everyone's hungry from 6 to 8 p.m., right? When's the last time you didn't eat between 6 and 8 p.m. for dinner, right? Most people do. So if you have to staff everybody available to help take orders in a restaurant, 6 to 8, you have all this collateral,
and it's inefficient, right? I mean, humans make mistakes.
They do. Computers are very good at not making numerical errors.
I'm curious. I'm collaborating with you, like brainstorming. I find, unless I'm at a fine dining experience, if I'm at a family type restaurant, I honestly would prefer just to have a tablet in front of me to go, here's my order, I'm done. I'd rather not wait for the waitress to come over and put my order in. I'd rather just do that and then, have it be served. Is that where the technology is going in the restaurant industry as well?
I don't know if the technology is going that way. I think that's just where humans have gone, right? And I feel like I'm just going to look at you instead of at the camera, okay?
You can do both.
You're much prettier than the camera. Okay.
He's not lying.
Yeah.
The camera doesn't lie.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of different things that have converged, but technology. Sometimes people want to fill their bellies and they just want to transact.
Yep.
And they want food.
Yes.
Right. And sometimes they want an experience.
Yes.
And
agreed.
If you want the experience, you want less computers, right? If you want more of just a transaction, maybe you don't want to talk to people. Maybe you don't want to interact with people because it's less efficient. So we're just sort of going where the people are going. And there's a lot of reasons that that's happening, but COVID definitely made that more of a thing.
And did you and your co-founder have a specific experience that said you had that eureka moment of like, shit, we need to create this thing to solve this problem that just happened?
We've been in the hospitality business I've been my whole life, honestly, in the hospitality business in some capacity. And staffing has just been more expensive, harder than ever before. For you go talk to a restaurant owner, it's hard
To staff.
right? It's
Yeah.
deceptively like complicated business to be in the first place,
Yep.
and staffing is harder and more expensive than ever. So we were really starting out trying to fix the like margin problem with staffing,
Mm.
right? It's just
Makes a lot of
expensive,
sense.
and razor thin margins in restaurants. So we're trying to ameliorate that situation for them, and we had a couple of things that we did that were terrible ideas, and we sort of landed on this, and we've stuck to this for about the last year now. And we launched an alpha program a few months ago, and so we are just now getting product out. So I'm not even going to tell you where it is because I don't want to mess up the data that we're
Come
collecting.
Tell me where I can call to see
Yeah.
how this works.
Yep. They have pizza.
Oh, it's a pizza place. Okay, let me see it.
I didn't say that. I said
They have
pizza.
pizza. Okay.
Yep.
I was just thinking when you were talking that pizza places would be the best example of this because it's Friday, right? It's to your point, 5:30. Oh my God, we have to order. You call a pizza place anywhere in the triangle around that time on a Friday,
Yep.
you probably get a busy signal or can I put you on hold for a minute, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's rocking and rolling. That's how they make their money. So
Yep.
anyway, it sounds like you guys landed on a phenomenal idea and solving a big problem. I want to go back now a little bit, and I love this question because everyone's response is different, which is how did you get started in sales? Did
Yeah.
you grow up and just all of a sudden as a baby
Yeah.
start crawling, selling stuff?
Yeah, I have a
or-
bachelor's degree in selling. Just kidding. That does
You
not
could.
exist.
I think some universities
Oh,
you
really?
can, I don't know if it's a bachelor's degree in,
Yeah.
but you can
Yeah.
major in sales.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay, so my story, I grew up in poor. My family's been farming here since the Revolutionary War. I'm not even kidding.
For real?
Yes, we still have the deed. Yours too? So we're probably related.
It's true.
So
In North Carolina?
in North Carolina,
Whereabouts?
the Henderson,
Yep.
Franklinton area.
Okay.
So we actually still have a piece of the original farm that my great grandfather got after the war. And we still have the original deed. It's in a plaque, and
Oh, wow.
it's really cool.
That is cool.
Not a local,
I assume
but pretty
Cameron
close.
is probably a family name as well.
Long is, but
Okay.
Cameron's.
It's not through Denton.
I think my mom just liked it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So
What did you guys grow on the farm?
everything. They were mostly growing food, and then cash crops. It was all tobacco.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
growing. It was like a community kind of thing. There
Yep.
were no like most of the plantations, as we know, were actually a little bit farther east of Vance County.
Okay.
And so most of the farmers, at least in our communities, were growing like food, and like in a community, someone grew the corn, and then someone grew, these vegetables. Someone grew cattle. And then like 100 years ago, it was all like tobacco. We missed the cotton farming.
Yep.
We didn't do any of that.
Yep.
I don't know if it grows well up
In
there
that
or not,
soil,
but it was tobacco for the longest time, and now it's just soybeans.
Yeah.
So,
Now it's just a solar farm.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
All right, cool. So how does
yeah.
that lead to
Yeah. So I think the thing is, what I wanted to get at is agricultural community. I grew up poor, right? There was just, as we know it, I didn't. It's not like I had, doctors or parents or that sort of thing. Low education level, and so I actually happened to be a pretty good musician, like in high school and stuff. So I got a scholarship to go to University of Kentucky for music performance. Then I chased a girl to another university and got a bachelor's degree in music therapy. So the reason I'm talking about we grew up poor is that like I always had this like I'm not going to be poor mentality my whole life. Like I refused to be poor, and we weren't poor in every sense, just
money,
financially poor. So I did that, and I worked with, restaurants all through college, and I sort of never left the industry. It pulls you back in. Have you ever worked in a restaurant? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. It's terrible and fun.
It's hard work.
It's very hard work.
It's fast.
Yep. And back then, people were still getting yelled at all the time. Okay, don't miss that at all. So anyway, music therapy degree. So I primarily worked as a music therapist in maximum security hospitals.
Oh.
So I was in California, and I worked at a hospital called Atascadero State Hospital. And basically, when prisoners in California are deemed too mentally ill to be in the prison, their status changes to patient, and then they go to these maximum security hospitals. So my job was to keep these folks from reoffending if they ever got out.
Mm-hmm.
So you use music as a way to build some rapport, and then you work on coping skills for these folks so that if they get out, which they're probably never getting out, okay, if they're in that hospital, hopefully they don't reoffend and they just have a better quality of life and, that sort of thing.
So you using music to rehabilitate them, or are you teaching to play an instrument? What does this look like?
It could be lots of different things.
Okay.
So sometimes, like, you're using music as a tool. Maybe you're in a group setting and everyone's playing in a drum circle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, the drumming is helping them. Well, that might be what you're doing, but why is to help people understand that you can be together with other people in a room and have a pleasurable experience in a group setting.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I don't have to be on high alert. I don't have to, like, the therapy is the sitting with other people, and the music is how they are able to tolerate it. Right. So that's just one example of using some sort of music and some sort of setting to help build a coping skill. So maybe the next time they're sitting at the lunch table with a bunch of people, they're less on edge.
Yeah.
Right. Things like that. So there's lots of different things you can do. And I worked with other populations too, kids with autism. I worked in nursing facilities, a little bit of hospice work. And
that doesn't sound like it's an occupation that gets you out of being poor.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah.
What was it? What instruments did you master?
I haven't mastered any.
What instruments did you play?
So I would say that I'm very good at some wind instruments like the trumpet.
Yeah.
I'm better than most at the piano, and I'm okay with guitar and drums and singing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I will not be singing on this podcast.
Well, needless to say, you're better at all those things than I am. So
you never know.
No, I know. I know.
Yeah. So I did that. Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
ADD. Yeah, I have that too. Yeah. So I was doing that, and then 2008 happened.
Yeah.
And there was like,
it did happen.
What's the first thing that gets cut? Right.
Oh,
Things
yeah,
that
for
don't
sure.
build any wealth whatsoever. They cost money.
Things that help people.
Yeah, exactly. So it was hard to get a job.
Yeah.
So
I bet.
after that, I put in, like, I don't know, 6,000 applications, and I got a hit with U.S. Foods. And U.S. Foods is a fine company. They are their training program is great, and it really is
A fine company.
They are
You mean that in a positive way?
positive way.
Okay.
Yes.
You weren't being sarcastic.
No, not at all.
Okay.
They're a great company. And it was in hospitality. I was selling food and equipment to restaurants.
Back to your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fell back into this. It was very comfortable. It was something that I sort of already knew. And I spent 7 years there. And then I did a little bit of consulting work.
What roles did you play at U.S. Foods?
Yeah. So I was basically a sales rep, and unofficially I worked with like other sales reps that, were newer, mentored a few, that sort of thing. But really I was just, a individual contributor.
Mm-hmm.
So no like true leadership other than like.
But you mentored other people along.
Yeah, of course.
And who are you selling to? Who are your customers?
Restaurants, hotels, butcher shops. Let's see, a little bit of retail, but mostly just in.
So you're selling to the owners of those businesses. I assume.
Yeah. Restaurants mainly is the.
What did you like selling to that audience?
What did I like selling to them?
No. What did you like about selling to them? So, because some people like selling to them,
Yeah.
some find it really challenging.
That's a good question. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think restaurant owners, they're if you're in a high tech sort of industry, like there's this rumor that's unfounded that goes out that restaurant owners are unsophisticated, and I think that's wrong. Like of course, there's some unsophisticated restaurant owners, but it's deceptively hard. And I think people confuse rigidity, which many restaurant owners have, with a lack of sophistication.
Well, everyone's trying to sell them something.
Yeah, like the doors are always open. People can walk in and talk to a restaurant owner all the time. Okay, so rigidity is not a lack of sophistication. It's very different. So I like the chase, but I also like the fact that when you sell something to someone at US Foods, you're not selling to them once. You don't sign a contract for a year. You're selling to them every week. So it's about building a very high quality, empathic kind of relationship with them. And you become like not just a salesperson, but you become like a conduit between them and your company. Like sometimes I felt like I was working more for the restaurateur when I was working for US Foods. And you start defending your own customer against your company. Sometimes it's a strange thing, but that's sort of what I liked about it, is that meaningful relationships, and long-term relationships. So
So you're there for 7 years.
Yep.
You leave. You go where?
I go to a little small solar company for like 6 months, and this is going to make me sound like I'm trying to brag, but this was right after COVID, and I had just won the President's Cup for US Foods 3 years in a row.
Which is the top seller, I assume?
Yeah, top seller. They get on this really cool trip. And I was kind of like, like I got to make a decision. Either I'm going to keep doing this and just
keep winning, you mean?
Yeah. Or I'm going to have to go take a take a financial hit to go into management, be a people manager. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I should probably just take this time to jump ship while I'm doing really well and I have all this momentum and inertia behind me, and then go to a company in a different industry. It was a tactical move for sure. Let me go to a different industry because that'll give me better positioning in the future.
More experience.
With a different industry. So I did that. I got to manage a lot of people, did a lot of sales, individual contributor and leadership roles. And then I got approached by Takeout Central. Takeout Central, another fine company, much smaller. They are probably the second largest local independent restaurant delivery service in the country. You might know them as Tar Heel Takeout, 919 Dine. They did some acquisitions.
Oh, so they have multiple brand kind of identities?
Well, they used to be. Now it's all just under Takeout Central.
Okay.
But so
competes against DoorDash and stuff?
Kind of, yeah. DoorDash is hard to compete with, for sure. But
same thing. I'm ordering food from restaurants and they're delivering.
Yeah, and they're 27 years old this year. So
wow.
Back then it was a very niche market. Like maybe 1% of all sales were delivered. If the restaurateur was like, okay, I'll do that, right?
Yeah, then COVID came.
Yep. And it was actually shifting before that, but COVID accelerated it. So I got to manage people there, and that was the first time that I had managed people in different locations. So there was this virtual aspect to things, and I'm a huge proponent of in-person, mentorship and that sort of thing. And I had to learn to do it, on the web. It was an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I did that, and I actually still advise there. Right, I have a small stake in the company. And then we saw this opportunity, and that's how I shifted away from Takeout Central to Virnika, and that's the whole story so far.
Started your own thing. So here's three themes throughout your professional career: music, food, sales. I wouldn't even say necessarily music. I would say or sales. I would probably just say humans, very, very relationships. If that makes sense, because we can get into that later. But sales. But that's why you like sales, right? Because you like the human element of it. You like the relationship building. You like the contact and communication. And is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting problem to try to solve, and like, you have your own prerogatives, and then you're like trying to solve problems for other folks, and it's like, weighing those two
Yeah.
things all at once, and becomes like a philosophical conundrum sometimes. But yeah, it's sales is very, very intellectual,
Yeah.
in
Can
my
be.
opinion. Yeah. So yeah,
Some people can make it intellectual. Yes. Some people not so much.
that's true.
But you obviously go into it with truly trying to solve a problem and wanting to solve a problem. And that starts early in your career, obviously. You don't
Yeah.
get into music therapy and helping folks that are institutionalized, quite frankly, that unless you want to help them, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
come through very empathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's empathy is a very, very hard thing to do. Like, a lot of people say that they empathize, but they
Mhm.
really don't. Um, I'd say like 1% of 1% of folks actually spend time and what I would say empathize, or listen with a capital L. Like, I've got experience doing it because I have a degree in it,
Yeah.
right? But I think it's helped me more than anything else in my sales career, is like really sitting and trying to feel what another person is feeling.
So what does it mean to you to be an empathetic leader?
Uh,
Because you see a lot of sales leaders
mhm,
now on LinkedIn. I'm an empathetic leader. Da, 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 da.
mhm.
Like I agree with you. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But what does it mean to be?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to what seems very natural to me can be kind of hard to like quantify sometimes. But what I think is, if you have practice on a regular basis where you try to step into someone else's shoes and imagine like what they're going through, and not try to connect what your needs are or what your wants are in relationship to that experience, right? If you can try to like disconnect yourself and try to feel what they feel, and not taint it with your own like your own goals or whatever, then like I think that's how you empathize. It's easier to say how you do it than it is to do it. Like,
I just, it's, I just find it hard for sales leaders because you have to make hard decisions every day. And some of those hard decisions are letting people go.
mm-hmm,
And if you're, to me, to be an empathetic leader is leading up to that point, you felt that you've done everything you could to make that person better at this job, to get them on a path to success. And when it just doesn't happen, having a thoughtful conversation that says, what do you think? It's not working out.
mm-hmm,
What do you think in the good next? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
in the old days, by the way, it wasn't done that way, right? It was, I told you weren't hitting your numbers,
right,
and today's unfortunately not a fun day, but you're gone.
yeah,
I do find that most leaders today take more of the approach I explained, but
yeah,
that's why I think that an empathetic sales leader would handle that situation. But that also depends on the company they're at, because that company's culture may not be like that, and they
that's
might not
definitely
give you
true.
the bandwidth to do that, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Because
uh
that means you're probably giving somebody a good 2 to 3 months kind of advanced, hey, here's what looks like happening.
mhm,
So get mentally and prepared,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I would say so, and it's empathy in the situation that you just verbalized is trying to experience what that person is experiencing, but it also educates you about how you can help them, right? If you can always ask too, but empathizing and trying to feel someone else's experience educates you, like, okay, this person's not hitting their numbers, they think that they're on the chopping block. Okay, if I know that they feel X about this, what is the best approach that I
Yep.
take now
Yep.
to get what the company needs?
Yep.
That's not the same as, hey, you have to do this or this is going to happen. It's, what do they need to hear? How do they need to hear it to increase the probability that they actually excel? And I don't know, it's just like optimization of people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's understanding the person, what's the things you need to do with that specific person, knowing how they'll react to certain words and
hmm,
conversations,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. And some people are just, it's not the right fit
Yeah.
for them, and that's just the way it
Yeah.
is. And sometimes, and I've had to do this once, where someone was actually trying really hard and I was doing my best, and it just was not working. And I had to fire someone that, frankly, didn't deserve to be fired because of effort. They just didn't have the skill set,
Yep.
and it sucked.
Yeah.
You know.
That's not fun for either person, that's for sure. But unfortunately, it's a necessary part of the job, isn't it?
Yep.
So what are some things that you've done throughout your career that really, put you on the success of this path of success? What are some things that are fundamental that you really believe in?
Finding a great mentor. That is,
Well, that's a theme we have on this podcast all the time.
yeah, like everyone.
Do you have one right now?
Absolutely, I have 2 right now.
Do
Daryl Hall from US Foods.
Daryl Hall, I love him. Hall notes. He's awesome. He's the one with the longer hair or the dark hair?
Yeah, he would love to hear that joke.
Yeah, he never heard that one, huh?
Yeah. And the other is, so he is a business development manager at US Foods.
Yeah.
And my other mentor is Will Brawley. He is the owner of Schedule Fly and also the host of the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast. It's a hugely popular podcast, like top 5 in the whole world. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, for hospitality.
Awesome.
So yeah, and I think it's a theme. Everyone talks about getting a mentor, but the truth is there's work for the mentor and the mentee. And you go to some place, there's always a person that you would love to be your mentor.
Yeah.
But if you ask Daryl Hall right now how many people he's mentored at US Foods, he'll tell you 2. Me and another gentleman. How many people have asked him to be their mentor? Hundreds. Right? And the difference is, like, when you ask for someone and they say, I want you to read this book this week, and I want to talk about it as you're reading it. If you take a month to read that book or you don't read the book, that's gone. Right? So you have to do all the things that they tell you to do. And like, if you've already found from other folks that you're talking to a person of high integrity, right? And they're not going to tell you to do anything wrong. Like, you just do the things that they tell you to do, even if it's uncomfortable. Then you develop a relationship, and that's the difference. So mentorship is important. That's number 1. I would say I don't even know if you could teach this, but being okay with being uncomfortable, right? Like, that is critical, right? How many people do things that feel good?
What do you mean by uncomfortable?
Like, do things, I think some people are languishing in life. Like, they get a job, they wait for a promotion, they wait for their pay raise, they go home and they watch football or basketball, and then they're not trying to level up. There's no hustle there. You have to be doing something, like yourself, working on your own game in a way. Even if it's, like, honestly, even if it's video games, like, I think there's a way to excel as a person by playing video games.
So basically challenge yourself.
Yes. And to take risks, to take chances, not with your just career, but with other stuff. Like, if you're unwilling to do things that are uncomfortable, it's hard to grow.
And I 100% agree with that. And I've always done it just because it comes naturally to me to take risks. Not one time did I regret taking a risk, even when most times it doesn't pan out, because most risks probably don't. But you at least tried, and that's the satisfaction you get from that. And you learn at minimum something from taking a risk or challenging yourself, whatever. But when you get complacent, you just get in this rut, and it becomes the same every day and every week and every month. So it's not a good place, especially if you're in a sales career, right? Like,
absolutely.
You got to continuously be learning. And that's one of the benefits of being in a place like this, is that you're learning from other people around you that don't sell what you sell and probably have a different role than you, but you can still learn from each other, right?
Like, there's all the other things that you're challenging yourself at is kind of the same. I don't know. It's the same path to maybe learning something, perspective, right? You do things like, I love to garden. I garden really hard, really well, right? Random stuff. Like, I go fly fishing.
Hardcore gardening.
It is. It is. In Raleigh, it's hard, okay? Right? So, So yeah, things like you'd be surprised how much I've learned
Yeah.
by failing at gardening
Yeah.
and starting seedlings and random stuff, and how much that makes me creative.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of path that can
Yeah.
be taken with coming here and listening to other people's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the third, I think this is really important, and I just thought about it. The
Yeah.
third thing that I would say, and I learned this from Daryl, is you got to avoid negativity. You have to avoid toxic. Like you find yourself in a sales position somewhere. There's there's very few folks that are not in the mud, right? They're like, oh, the company's doing this, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Like, that's just wasted breath, like talking about that. So, like, just disconnect yourself from all that stuff if you can. There's like text threads where everyone's bitching about the company directives or HR or whatever it is. Like, just don't respond.
Yep.
Maybe you need to save face and you stay in the chat, but like, don't engage, because if it's not advancing your career, then or advancing you as a person, avoid it.
And if you're that impacted by it, leave.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if it's bothering you that much, you're complaining that much, then guess what?
Yep.
If you can't change it, then leave.
Yeah. Broken culture is a broken culture. It just is. And
I find a lot of people will stay in a broken culture, though, meaning like they'll complain about it, but they'll still stay there.
Yep.
Most people don't just leave.
And most people would never try to change the culture, right? That's hard, right? Like changing it from the inside. There's some people that are just good at that, but
has to start
usually
from the top,
takes
though,
new, usually takes new blood at the top. Yeah,
certainly does. All right, one last question I have. It's
Okay.
my staple question that you need to think about this a little bit. So, what's one thing that's really interesting about yourself that most people don't know?
That most people don't know?
Most people.
Pretty vocal about these things.
Well, the three of us here don't know. How
Okay.
about that way? How about that?
Yeah. I would say that I'm an investment coach. Yeah. So another thing is like giving some of your time, with not expecting anything in return. So I'm a coach for Rule 1 Investing, which is sort of like an investing strategy by Phil Town, who is one of the people that predicted the 2008 housing crisis.
Is that right?
Yep. And so he teaches like normal, regular folks the basic principles about financial markets, how to manage your money, what an options trade is, sort of get past all of the lingo that Wall Street wants to make you believe is more complicated than it really is. So
you do this for free, or you do this
for free? Absolutely. Yep.
I got two people I want to introduce you to that.
Yeah.
They're called my daughters.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like everyone, the most amount of money you're ever going to have in your life is your retirement, and you give it to someone else to manage.
You should be in charge of that. Yeah.
Or at least have an idea. Yeah. Okay. So that's how I feel about that.
That's pretty cool. Now I'm curious, just follow up on that. Like, how did you get started? You didn't go to school for that. We know that. Like, why did you decide to do that?
I went to Phil Town seminar in Atlanta, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And I expected someone to sell me something, and they never did. And he's one of those few people that I've interacted with that has every reason to monetize something, but has chosen not to.
Interesting.
So high moral fiber character in Phil Town, and every one of the volunteers that's there, it's like 40 volunteers every seminar they do, they're all unpaid.
Really?
Yeah, all unpaid. And it's fun too. It keeps you sharp, right? When you're teaching someone else.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. It's fulfilling. That. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Good job.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's great.
Thank you.
And for those of you out there, we'll see you next time.
I was told this lady was going to ask me some questions, the hard questions.
Do you have some questions, ma'am? Where did the name Virnika come from?
Virnika is a play on words. So there is a section of the brain called Vernika's area of the brain. It's a German doctor, and that part I learned it as Wernicke's area of the brain
too, by the way.
But it's actually Vernika's area of the brain. That is the part of the brain that that dissects audio speech that we hear and synthesizes it in a way that we understand it as language. Okay, so the idea for Virnika is a play on words it's voice commerce. So it's using, cyborgs to
Interesting.
to synthesize human speech and interact back and forth. So real nerdy.
That wasn't there. That could have been your interesting story too. Like, best answer.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
Until next time, Sales HQ.
See you, everybody.